development. I will provide information about spanking and how there is no evidence that spanking affects child development. There has been so much debate about spanking and not spanking. It's a continual discussion. Have you ever been in a public place and saw a child acting out with no regard to what the parent or the parents were saying? And I know that in the back of your mind, you were saying, this child needs a good spanking. I am a parent, and it has always been said that if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. The rod was not spared, and the child was not spoiled. I did spank my children, and there was no effect of child development. So first, let's begin with lessons from spankings, and these are good lessons. Children learn right from wrong. They also learn respect for their parents and also for other adults. And they also learn that all actions do have consequences. Growing up, my mother, she spanked us, and she used a switch. And I think the most torturous thing was that we had to go out and get the switch to be spanked with. And my siblings and I, what we would do, we would go out and find the smallest switches to use. But my mother always had another switch to use. So she had the right type already, because she knew that we were going to go out and find the smallest one. Secondly, authors Catherine McGuire Jack, Andrew Growowski, and Lawrence M. Burgee, these authors wrote Spanking and Child Development During the First 5 Years of Life. And they found that there is no association between spanking and cognitive skills. Spanking is a means of behavioral control. In the United States, spanking is a common practice. 1/3 of American families spank as young as 10 to 18 months, and 70% of families spank 2 to 4-year-olds. Lastly, winner Moyer Melinda poses a question, and she asks, are kids spanked because they act out, or do they act out because they're spanked, or both? Research suggests that spankings doesn't make aggressive children, or spankings depend on the circumstances. In my opinion, they are spanked because they act out and does not listen to reason from parents. Parents do need to ensure that children understand why they're spanked, and parents should not be angry enough to cause harm to a child. Some things that parents use to spank children with: simply your hand. They use their hand to spank their children. Some parents also use shoes to spank their children. Other parents use remote controls. And some parents use belts to do so. And as I stated earlier, my mother used a switch to spank us with. information about the benefits of spanking and that child development is not affected. Discipline and structure is needed. And will you continue to let your children act out or discipline them to become better adults? Parents must have discipline strategies in place in order to teach children that bad behaviors do have consequences. And as I said before, spanking does not affect child development. And that is my stance on, does spanking affect child development? No, it does not. And research have spoken. Researchers have said that spanking does not affect child development. But parents do need to make sure that whenever they use the shoe, the remote control, or even their hand or the switch or the belt, that there is no child abuse intentions noted. Because we know that child abuse is totally different from spankings. And researchers have said that spanking does not affect child development, so therefore we are not abusing our children when we do spank. And again, it says that in the United States, spanking is a common practice. And we know that spanking is somewhat good for our children because it teaches them discipline, and it also teaches them that bad behavior do have consequences. And 1/3 of American families spank children as early as 10 to 18 months. And then again, 70% of families spank from 2 to 4 years old. So thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, spanking does not affect child development.